And now give it up for Nick Anstett.
Hey, everybody. Can people hear me okay? Cool. So my pronouns are she, her. For visual description, I am a white trans woman with shoulder-length brown hair, and I'm wearing a white dress with blue dinosaurs on it. I'm going to be reading a flash piece that was published in Lightspeed magazine last month. It's about mid-Atlantic beach towns, if people have any familiarity with those. Okay, so this is Monsters of the Drunken Shore. You're sitting on the third-floor balcony facing the beach when you see it breach the water. It rises upward with a snort of steam and sparks of flame, lifting its spiked reptilian head from the waves. It's silhouetted in moonlight and bisected by the surface line. You know it's too big to be there. You know because water that close to the coast never drops below 50 feet, and this thing breathing heavily in the ocean air and stretching its toothy jaw must be all head and no body, but there it is. You remember when you were young and you came to this beach with your father. He had inherited a condo from his own father, who had bought it when beachfront property was cheap. You had stepped on a crab or maybe a glass bottle that had been discarded and shattered in collisions with other jetsam. Your foot had bled and you had screamed. Your father tried to save the day by gripping it in his hands, constricting it like a snake and damming the blood from seeping out through your soul, but the damage was done. He spent most of the rest of the morning trip slowly building you back your bravery, graduating you from walking on his feet like a puppet to a doggy paddle in the sandy ledges before the drop-off. He sold the condo a year later. A boy staying on the same street as that old place had drowned 2 days ago. He'd been picked up by a big one and bounced against the sand. Your friend Kate, the one who went to a different high school than you, but still called on birthdays and the deaths of grandparents, said she saw his heavy body being pulled from the water, head swaying back and forth, and limbs dangling loose. Every year someone died during this week. Every year, your mother insisted that it was absurd to expect anything but disaster from an entire state's worth of newly graduated teens invading an infamous beachfront party town for 5 straight days. When your older sister had gone 3 years earlier, a girl on the crosswalk had been struck dead by a Subaru driven by a drunk boy. Your upperclassmen friends, who had graduated the year before that, told you about the coked-out boy, or maybe it was a girl, that had fallen from a 7th-story balcony and onto the dunes. The person, boy or girl, lived, but it was counted as that year's fatality. Part of you feels relieved now that the death for this year has already happened and it did not touch you or your friends. Now the thing in the water opens its mouth like it wants to yawn or bark out a scratchy growl, but there's only silence, the heavy, sticking kind. You feel a weight lift from Amy, whose head has been resting on your lap as she works off the 8 shots of Svedka and the Jaeger bomb the boys next door had dared her to swallow. Like you, Amy hadn't drank before this week. Somehow the two of you had avoided it all through high school. You had both missed the smuggled beers at graduation parties and the big rager where some guy's parents had gone to jail, and instead shared weeknights populated with takeout noodles and subtitled Korean dramas. The two of you had promised each other that those days were over. This was, after all, supposed to be a week of infamous firsts, a 5-day pilgrimage for sex, drugs, and mini golf. Your first time was on Tuesday. It hadn't gone how you always hoped it would, a shared moment of naked intimacy with the now unconscious girl resting her head on your lap, who had seemingly given up on answering your texts or keeping your plans. Instead, it was with a boy you had met at the dirty under-21 club on the boardwalk. You had felt lonely and abandoned when he grinded up behind you, but he smelled nice, and while you had danced with boys like this before, it felt special and more dangerous when he grew hard against your ass. You walked back to his place together, talking about the restaurant with the good shrimp and the one with the rooster on the logo that had suggested a name about Cox or Peckers. His place was bigger than yours and had more beer and whiskey, but you didn't care to drink and spent most of the night in a somersault of pain, sweat, and pleasure. He gave you his number, but you had already decided to forget him. And I'm going to leave the rest there. There's another half, but yeah, great, thanks.